and new CBS reporting about a CIA assessment ahead of President Trump's decision to launch what was described as Operation Absolute Resolve. We can now confirm the Central Intelligence Agency was asked to analyze potential political leadership scenarios should Nicolas Maduro cease to be president. It's been less than 24 hours since the ousted leader and his wife pleaded not guilty to federal charges in New York City. National correspondent Lilia Luciano joins us now from Cucuta, Colombia this morning, where she continues to gauge the temperature on the Venezuelan-Colombia border there. Lilia, good morning to you once again. Break down to us, for our viewers who don't know this yet, what was inside this analysis from the CIA?
This analysis makes a lot of sense for those of us who understand how Venezuela has been working for the last almost 30 years. There was a lot of concern when we heard President Trump saying that Machado, can't believe that I blanked out for a second there on Maria Corina Machado's name. I've been covering her. I've been with her so often. But anyway, President Trump said that Maria Corina Machado did not have the support or perhaps the trust to lead the country. Now that we're learning about this CIA report, it makes a lot of sense that they assessed how things work in Venezuela. And we're seeing things work in Venezuela right now, and that is suppression. That is how they maintain the order. What the CIA report found was that the Trump administration, if they wanted to eventually, whether it's change regime or whatever the intention is, needed to maintain order and stability in Venezuela. How you do that is to maintain the armed forces, keeping the order, and also, unfortunately for Venezuelans, the extra official forces, the colectivos, these paramilitary groups that are really under the control of the Minister of the Interior, Diosdado Cabello, the armed forces under the defense minister, Padrino Lopez. These people are crucial to maintain order in the streets. The opposition has not been in power. Nobody that is not aligned with the regime, with Chavismo, has been in power for nearly 30 years. So from one day to the next, if you take out these figures, of course, the regime collapses and then everything can descend into a chaos. So in order to maintain at least some temporary order, not that the CIA was assessing the removal of Maduro itself, but who would be the next figure. The two men I mentioned, the head of the defense minister, Padrino Lopez, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, and Diosdado Cabello, the interior minister, but really the person who keeps the order, especially of these extra official groups. These two people face the same charges as Maduro. They also have bounties basically on their heads for tens of millions of dollars. So appointing one of them could be very challenging to explain, or allowing for one of them to rise to power would be challenging to explain, but you still need for them to be in line if you're going to maintain some semblance of order, at least temporarily. So the next person would be Delcy Rodriguez. Delcy Rodriguez was vice president, so it's obvious that she would go up to becoming the interim president if the president is no longer there by Venezuelan standards, not that it's a legitimate presidency, but she's also somebody who has been negotiating in the past. She was Minister of the Exterior, Foreign Minister, or Secretary of State in our terms in the United States. She has negotiated. She has been Minister of Oil, so another cabinet member position, and Minister of the Economy. So she's used to dealing with other countries on sanctions, on oil, on the economy, on economic measures, and seems to be, by regime standards, somewhat a little bit more moderate than the more hardline people who are actually accused of the same crimes as Maduro in the United States. That's what the CIA assessment seems to indicate.
And Lilia, doesn't that expose the real challenge for the Trump administration now, which is that you have Mr. Maduro detained with his wife, but you have his VP, his loyalists, people who help prop up his regime running the country now. And so now that Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in officially as the acting president, what do people there feel about that effective leadership group staying in place?
Look, Errol, it's so delicate. Here you feel the frailty of that stability in Venezuela. You're seeing the armored trucks behind me because Colombia knows that if things turn to chaos in Venezuela, we're going to feel it here across the border immediately. The problem is, the issue is, if the goal is stability, that means that you need to keep the people who control the armed forces and all security forces, whether legal or illegal, happy in a way. You need to keep that unity between Delcy and Cabello and Padrino Lopez. You need to keep the armed forces stable. They're not all loyal to the regime, but if they're under their command, they have to be. So how do you slowly remove their power in order for there to be a transition into a democracy, to call for an election, to things like that? And by the way, the Venezuelan opposition and the people who support the opposition say, you don't need another election. There was an election. A president was elected. So right now, I think what we're going to see, my perspective, I can't tell the future, is there's going to be a bit of a slow process, a slow burn, nothing sudden, so the chips don't crumble immediately.
All right. Lilia Luciano with great context there, reporting from the Colombia-Venezuelan border. Lilia, thank you.